divide the work on the shot into 6 main steps. The order of the steps might change a little depending on the shot, its complexity and its issues. The first step is tracking. It consists in reading the movement of the camera in the shot in order to reproduce it in a virtual environment. The second step is cleanup. It consists in removing all the elements in the shot that interfere with the scene, such as objects, shadows, tracking points. The third step is keying. It consists in reading the background color that needs to be changed into alpha, thus separating the subject of the shot from the environment. The fourth step is match move. It consists in applying the camera movement we tracked before to the elements we are going to add to our shot. The fifth step is composite. It consists in putting together the different elements that form our new shot: original footage, graphics, effects. The sixth step is conform. It consists in making all the composited elements look as they were shot in the same moment. The standard procedure is to make all added elements match the color profile of the original shot. Let's start from tracking. In the project, we have already imported the archaeological dig footage and the background Photoshop project called Wadi Rum Desert. To begin, select the footage and set the interpret footage option with a frame rate of 29.97 frames per second and an aspect ratio of 1.43. Then, let's create a new composition based on the footage properties by clicking and dragging the footage on the Create New Composition command. As you can see, the aspect ratio is automatically corrected in the viewer. As you can see in the shot, we have one tracking point, the blue square over the green back, which we will be using to track the camera motion. Before going forward, it is better to keep the project organized by moving the new composition into the comps folder and giving it a correct name. First of all, let's start by creating a null object that will hold our motion information. We will use this object further on to transfer and control the movement of the different elements in the scene. Then, select the footage and open up the Tracking tab. Here, select Track Motion in order to assign a new tracker to the layer. Within After Effects, we can perform different kinds of trackings. First of all, we can decide what kind of movement we want to track: position, rotation, or scale. If we select rotation or scale, After Effects will automatically add a second tracking point to the tracker in order to be able to calculate the relative transformation between the 2 points and thus define the rotation or scale variation of the scene. Different tracking systems are used for different kinds of shots. If the camera presents a linear movement, one single tracking point is enough. In the case of a pan movement or a perpendicular movement, we are going to need at least 2 points. If the movement changes the planar perspective of the scene, we will need at least 4 points. Inside After Effects, by changing the track type, we can activate a perspective tracker using a corner pin system. We are going to see it in detail later on. For now, we just need a single tracker. Let's position our tracker on the blue tracking point in the shot. It is important to position the tracker in a point of maximum difference among the pixels, thus a corner of a tracking point. If we were to put it in the middle, we would have had only blue pixels around. The tracker has 2 different areas. The outside area is the search area, where the system will look for the inner area while analyzing the movement of the scene. The inner area is the analysis area, where the system is going to compare the pixels in order to find the frame-by-frame position of our tracker. It is important to set them accordingly to the camera movement. In the tracker option, we can set how we want it to analyze our shot. First of all, we should select the channels we want to track. In our case, we will track the RGB channel because we have a strong difference in colors, having a blue tracking point on a green back. If we were using a U over U tracking points, we should select luminance or saturation instead. Keep selected the subpixel positioning option. It will make the tracker more precise. And set the confidence option at the bottom of the window. I usually keep it in Adapt feature so that it will automatically adjust the tracker position when partially losing the point. Once our tracker is set, we can select Analyze Forward to record the movement. I tend to always start the tracking process from the beginning of a shot in order to have a more clear set of information. Now our tracker has recorded the movement of a blue point. It is always better to visually check the quality of the tracker before transferring the animation to the null object. The motion target of our tracker is already set to the null one because in this comp we only have 2 layers. If we had more than 2, we would need to specify the target layer by selecting Edit Target. Being satisfied with our target, we can apply the motion transformation by clicking Apply. Here we can select which dimensions will be animated, X and Y or only one of the two. By pressing OK, we apply the motion transformation to the null object dimensions. As you can see, the position of the anchor point of the null is now placed on the corner of the blue tracking point, and if we move along the timeline, we can see the null following the position of the point. Let's have a look at other tracking systems now. First of all, we are going to create a new composition to try a camera tracking on the same footage. Then, in the Tracker tab, select Track Camera. The camera tracker in After Effects will analyze the footage in background and then solve a virtual camera in order to let us place 3D layers in the scene. The camera tracker in After Effects might have issues depending on the footage. Particularly in a greenback situation like this one, we would probably have problems in solving the camera due to the fact that the background is pretty uniform and the software doesn't have enough tracking points to generate a virtual camera. As you can see, we have a warning. The software can't solve the camera for the current frame. If we move forward in the timeline, we can then generate a virtual camera. Now that the system was able to calculate the camera, we can click on Create Camera. In the composition, we now have a virtual camera that moves as the original camera used in the shot. Further on, in the compositing classes, we are going to see how to manage 3D layers and virtual cameras inside After Effects. Lastly, we are going to see how to use planar tracking and the perspective corner pin inside After Effects. You can see I've created a new comp called corner pin. It contains a new footage and an image. We are going to use the perspective corner pin tracking to replace the license plate on the moving car. In the Tracker tab, select Track Motion and then change the type to Perspective Corner Pin. Now we have 4 trackers in the viewer. Let's place them on the 4 corners of the license plate. This first part of the shot is out of focus, so we must approximate the exact position of the corners of the plate. Let's check the tracking options. Place the new license plate inside the composition and set it as the motion target. Once we're done, we can launch the tracking. As you can see, the tracker was able to read the movement until a certain frame. When the car started to move faster, we lost the positions. To correct this issue, we can move back to the last frame with the correct tracking, reposition the points, and launch the tracker once again. If it keeps losing the tracker, we can even correct it frame by frame. Now that we have completed our tracking, we can apply the transformation to the target layer. The corner pin is going to map the four corners of the target layer to the 4 points we tracked, thus matching perfectly the movement of the new plate to the original movement of the car.